Hello and welcome everyone, I am Madals. I am going to be casting some more Heart of the Swarm today, and it is a ZvZ. So let me introduce these two players who will be spawning on Antigua Shipyard. In the top left position, as the Red Zerg, we have Slam, and his opponent in the lower right, as the Blue Zerg, we have JonnyREcco. So ZvZ in Heart of the Swarm, let me give you a rundown. For anyone who hasn't watched it, doesn't really know, they're just like, Heart of the Swarm, what's this? It's being released soon. Something about it being good or so I hear. Well, yes. It is pretty fantastic. It is great. I love it. If I could put a ring on it, as Beyonce would say, I most certainly would, but I can't. So, anyway, what can we expect in ZvZ? Not much has changed early game. That much I will tell you for nothing, because Zerg, yes, they've got the ability to get Overlord speed on hatchery tech as well as burrow, but aside for well, a couple of very unusual uses for them, or very what's the correct word for what I'm looking for? Some very situational uses for that. It doesn't really make a big difference. So it's still all about who has the most Zerglings, then who has the better Ling Bling control, and then who is able to get up a nice sizable force of roaches. That's early game in a nutshell. Then you get into mid game, and this is where things really change. And I'm talking like 2 bases, lair tech. Roach Hydra, ace. Really, really good in all of the matchups. Swarm hosts, they haven't been used that much in ZvZ. I've seen it a couple of times, but it's nothing that's really blown my mind. The big thing though, the current main strategy used pretty much throughout is muta on muta play. Mutalisks are great, and the reason why is because they regenerate health so quickly that unless you kill them, they're going to be back at full strength so fast, and you can get very large muta flocks, and you can harass, you can pin your opponent back, and because they don't die really as easy as they used to, even against something like a Roach Push or Roach Hydra, once they get up into a sizable force, you can micro them back and just keep engaging, whittling down your opponent's army chip by chip, and it's just so strong. But let's talk a bit what these two are doing for the moment. We've got a hatchery down for both players first, followed up by a spawning pool. The first variation occurring now though with Slam getting the gas then pool, whereas Rico just getting the pool then gas quite a bit later. That means his speed will be slightly delayed, his banelings will be slightly delayed, all of that delayed a little bit, but it will mean that he has a couple more drones, a bit better mineral income, and that really levels things out pretty evenly, I would say. That's fair. So while we're waiting for these two to reveal anything stunning and extraordinary, let me remind you all, if you like my casting, like the video, leave a cool comment and subscribe. I get new games up every single day of the week, and I'm very hyper at the moment because I've been casting for ages today, just preparing for the beta going down and making sure there's a good bank of content up before the launch of Heart of the Swarm. So make sure that you just all check that out, because I have got some awesome games being released over the coming days and weeks. As we're seeing, drones, queens and drones, and 2 Zerglings and drones and queens. Speed getting started for Slam. Speed will get started for Rico probably in a couple of seconds, just once he hits that 100 gas. Slam pull 2 of his workers out of the gas. That's something that you always want to check. Rico, I'm guessing he's going to keep all 3 in there, and indeed my guess was correct. That's just due to the fact that he got his gas slightly later. He's going to want to catch up to the gas mark. Meanwhile, Slam may chuck down a baning nest at 50. That's what I'm looking for, is whether those banelings come out super fast or whether he's just going to stick on speedlings only for a while. We do have the Zerglings meeting in the middle. They're going to have a little bit of a fight. Rico winning that engagement just, but yeah, nothing too crazy. 1 Zergling died for Rico. There's the baning nest for Johnny as well. Meanwhile, no baning nest yet for Slam. Instead of going straight up to that Roach Warren, so you're going to get some early Roaches. And the risk you play with that is that if your opponent happened to be going for a lot of Zerglings very early on, I'm talking like Speedling Floods, you would die. You would just flat out be dead. There's nothing you can do without banelings against that, especially if you've committed to getting some roaches down. But because Rico is not doing that, this is fine. Going straight up to roaches just means we're definitely going to be getting into the mid game. It's a quite an early roach warren, so could definitely be some kind of aggression. Rico though, he's getting up his lair very early. He's getting up his 2nd, 3rd and 4th gas simultaneously, really positioning himself to be going for those Mutalisks. Some speedlings do stream straight in though. They're going to be able to come straight up into the main base, get all of the information needed, see the lair, see all 4 gas are down. That is precisely what Slam would want to know, because now he can react appropriately to that. And really the appropriate reaction could very well be just coming to kill him. 9 roaches are in production. Rico's going to have to hold this quite thoroughly. He does have an Overlord right outside the base, so we'll see the roaches on their way across. They don't have speed, so we'll be slow. 1 Spine Crawler is down. Another Baneling morphing in, droning though at the time being, and that means Rico is already ahead by 8 workers. But the second he sees these roaches coming across, which is right about now, he needs to start producing Zerglings. Slam following up with 14 Speedlings, 2 additional Spine Crawlers on their way, 3 additional Spine Crawlers on their way. Not many lava at the moment, but we should see Rico start producing those Zerglings as fast as he can, because he's got to hold this off. If he holds this off, he's going to be in a good spot. He's got an awful lot more workers than that of his opponent. 10 more drones out, and with these Spine Crawlers, he should be okay. But it's the additional Speedlings that are following up behind this that are going to be able to tank up some of the damage and be able to deal an awful lot of damage. So the Baneling hits are going to have to be nice. Rico with 18 more Zerglings on the way out, trying to use the Spine Crawlers, trying to keep them up as long as he can, and the Banelings are starting to move forward. They're trying to just bait these roaches. They don't want to detonate on the roaches, they want to detonate on the Speedlings, but coming around the back, going to try and harass the middle line, and then all of the Spine Crawlers are forward. But as we see there, a Baneling hit does go down, but on the roaches, unfortunately, Speedlings coming up into the main base. JonnyREcco is in a lot of problems right now. We can see that some good damage being done. The Queen's trying to get focused down, but Rico has so many Speedlings, he is able to clean up the main base. The Spine Crawlers at the natural, doing some nice work. 14 more Zerglings on the way out. These roaches will now die, but what we do see is the Spire getting started. It was not scouted. That is quite important. We've got a cancer coming down there on, I believe it was a Spine Crawler, and if I hit the right button, we just need to take a look at what's up. 29 Speedlings up against none. JonnyREcco's counter aggression is going to be absolutely catastrophic, because there's only 8 roaches in production and 2 Speedlings, no Banelings, and with such a small number of roaches, these Zerglings are going to be able to do an awful lot of damage. The roaches coming out now, the Queen's coming out, they're trying to get some blocks off, trying to engage in chokes, but with so many Speedlings, Johnny may very well decide to go for it. He just wants to claim the map control. Pulling back now, maybe not wanting to go quite yet, wanting to keep a bit of a defensive force up, but with the Spire, he is going to be in a brilliant position. More roaches need to come out though for Slam, who's moving forward, and if he gets these roaches exposed like this, Rico could surround them and could get rid of them very quickly indeed. There's no upgrades for the Lynx, but here is Rico going to go for it? No, not yet. He's pulling back, he's waiting. He's trying to get the overcommitment. He's trying to force that overcommit, but we see the third base getting taken for both players. Rico's, though, a couple of seconds earlier, about 30 seconds sooner than that of Slam's, but the drone having to stop now due to the Speedlings there. The roach forces having to split apart, which is not something you necessarily want, because it does leave them a little bit vulnerable. The Spire is just finished, so JonnyREcco does have an awful lot of money. 9 Mutalisks in production now, so he's going to be able to start really harassing this. There's no anti-air other than the Queens, and there is not many Queens of that either. Only 3 out. Those Mutas, especially with 9 of them out, and the subsequent following Mutas are going to be able to do a lot of damage. Meanwhile, the Overseer does come in, does not see the Spire. We see there that Slam has no clue that that Spire is down, literally missed it by a couple of pixels. That is so unfortunate. The Mutas, though, are now hitting the field. The Zerglings are trying to engage the roaches in the center, but those roaches are about to come up against something they cannot attack, and that means that it will be very, very good for Johnny here. The roaches coming straight over, see the Mutalisk, but they're just going to start running across the map. They may go and try and do some counter aggression, but the Mutas are going to be able to do so much damage before that. The Spine Crawlers are down at the front here. Meanwhile, Speedlings coming in, going to deny the third hatchery. There's not enough roaches there to stop it. The cancel better go down, otherwise Slam is going to be in a lot of problems. And no, there is no cancel. That is a lot of lost minerals. The roaches is going to try and come and snipe down JonnyREcco's third. But even if this third does go down, there's Speedlings here, there's a good number of Mutas, the damage is certainly racking up, and the roach is desperately trying to focus fire down the hatchery. But I don't think they're going to do it. It will be close with the Speedlings coming in, though. It should just be saved, and it gets away with 60 health, so that was very close, but that is now a big vulnerability to JonnyREcco's play. He needs to get some transfuses on that from the Queen if he wants to keep it up, but instead he's getting up his infestation bit. He's getting out 10 more drones. Infestors are on the way for Slam at the moment. Pathogen Glands is nearly finished researching, so some fungal growth is a good way to deal with Mutas if you don't have your own Spire out, but this third base not getting cancelled was a bit of a loss for Slam. The worker count sitting at 45 to 54 in Rico's favour. Factoring in the third base, that is a big advantage. Forward now come the Mutalisk, though. Only the Queen's there. The Spore Crawler gets focused down, but no, now the second Queen's there. We're going to need some more help. A couple of Overlords also coming to their death. That is going to be frustrating. Won't supply block Slam, though, but they will have to be remade at some time. More Spore Crawlers coming down. That third base still a vulnerability, and as we can see with no Spores there, with no Queens out, that could be really, really awkward. Another Spore Crawler trying to come down. Infestors trying to get some fungal growths off, but as fungal growths are now a projectile and quite a slow one, you can dodge them. if you are really good with your micro. So that is what we're seeing JonnyREcco do. He's picking up these infestors as well. He's looking to be in a great spot, and to be honest, I don't see anything that Slam is going to be able to do, losing quite a few drones. Now 8 have been killed. That takes the working count 34 to 57. This third base is still up, but there is no defense for it, so the Mutas on their way out can just start picking away at that. The Spore Cooler trying to move up, but will likely just get focused down very quickly indeed. The Glaives are bouncing off onto that. The Infestor there, a little bit exposed. The Fungal Growth does hit quite a few Mutalisks, but the remaining Infestors are getting cleaned out. That is such a lot of gas. Meanwhile, a lot of Speedlings are in production for REcco here. We can see that a huge number sitting in reserve. The supply count nearly double now for REcco, now actually exceeding double that of Slam. So REcco in a great spot. He's getting out more units. Where are the Fungal Growths? They're not hitting yet, and without those Fungals, the Mutas are just free to attack anything they want. There goes a Fungal, but it's not doing enough damage, and as such, I think JonnyREcco is going to win this game now. In come the Speedlings, and with that, Slam, with nothing to defend, is forced to GG out. So, that was a good little bit of ZvZ action, a nice little back and forth there. Both players really harassing nicely. So, I hope you enjoyed that game. Remember, like the video, leave a cool comment, and subscribe, and I'll see each and every one of you tomorrow for yet another new cast. I was Madals, and bye for now.